Today, I'm joined by Richard Lupo, Fixed Operations Director at Apple Tree Honda and Apple Tree Acura. With giant dealer groups right next door, Richard and the Apple Tree team have had to outthink, not outspend. Their success in fixed ops is a masterclass for smaller dealers looking to compete and win in a cutthroat market. A big thank you to our sponsors for making today's episode possible: CDK Global, OpenLane, and Nomad Content Studio. And now, let's get into the show. Richard Lupo on the CDG podcast. Richard, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me, Osh.
Glad to have you on. You are an interesting person in an interesting market, to say the least. I call it, based on my 30-second assessment of our conversation, it's a little bit of a David versus Goliath over there. You got some big dealerships nearby, and you are a smaller dealership. I wouldn't call you small, but you're definitely a smaller operation that's punching above their weight class. So I think we'll have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, we're located in Western North Carolina in the Asheville area. Our stores are located just south of Asheville, situated between Asheville and Hendersonville. And yes, we do have a bunch of players in our market that are much larger than us. So we have to work hard to stay relevant and stay as close as we can to the competition, punching above our level. We've got Hendrick is surrounding us, especially to our east, out of Charlotte. We've got the Fields Auto Group, and then they're a great organization. And we've got Hudson is in the area. Fred Anderson is expanding. So yeah, we've definitely got a bunch of players, and we work hard to stay at or above their level. And we are the only Honda and Acura dealer points in all of Western North Carolina, and that is certainly a homage to the family that owns these points that Honda and Acura have never seen need to add additional points because of their stewardship of the business over the last 53 years that they've owned the store.
Wow. All right. So a couple of things there. Number one, Asheville. Mm-hmm. Asheville. That sounds very familiar. Is that where we recently had flooding and the hurricanes? I'm thinking of the right Asheville.
That is correct. Yes. We have checked off almost every natural disaster in the last 12 months, starting with obviously what were, historic floods from a hurricane, a once in a 1,000-year event, and completely devastated our area. And we definitely had a couple of team members that were touched by that.
Wow.
Followed that up about 6 months later with wildfires. Recently had a significant earthquake, and we're checking them all off right now. So yeah,
how does that impact just day-to-day life in the dealership, camaraderie, business? I mean, just give us a little, if I was a fly on those walls, or over the last year, what was it like, the ups and downs?
Well, we did have a couple of our associates, long-term associates, that were affected, and we definitely had to put our arms around them and give them starting with any time off that they needed, and then provided them with resources. We got them with NCADA, North Carolina Auto Dealers Association, who put together a relief program, and they certainly helped out a bunch. Churches, community organizations, everybody came together. And one of the functions actually that we were able to provide was stability. Our facilities, all three of our rooftops, got through mostly unscathed, and so we were able to open back up right after and get everybody back to work and bring at least from their work life a bit of stability, routine, and income. And so that was one of the things that was very helpful in these times when people are dealing with these things, is at least have an anchor in their life. And we went out on the radio stations, and we did free inspections of everybody's car, regardless of makes and models, for storm damage and safety. Put a bunch of free tires on people's cars and things like that, and just helped out. So it's just it certainly has helped with the continuity and the camaraderie in the staff, but it was already very high. Being a family-owned business for over 50 years, very, very low turnover. So everybody knows each other, and it just brought us together just one step closer.
I was going to ask you about yourself, but real quick, what's behind the name Apple Tree? Where
Well, so keeping along the lines of the people in this area, these mountains will make people hard, and so recovering from this tragedy, people definitely are resilient here, and they have taken much of the landscape, and it's tough landscape. There's steep slopes and a lot of challenges with landscape, and over the years, over the last probably 150 years, an apple business has Apple agriculture has become really part of the just every aspect of what we do here. There's huge apple orchards. So you look into the mountains and you see rows of apple trees, peach trees, things like that. So there's that, and then you'll see. Actually, move out of the way there. The owner, the founder, had 3 sons, and there's 3 apples on the tree. So those are his 3 sons.
Look at that. So I swear I didn't plan this, by the way, but one of our followers at Cardio Guy on social is a guy named Matt Van Swol, and he used to be a photographer at Apple. Look at that, right? I didn't plan this, promise. Anyways, the point is, so he's been a long time follower, and it was around the time of, the flooding where he got very vocal and into politics, and he started posting, and he became like an influencer, like hundreds of thousands of followers. And all he was talking about was Asheville, North Carolina, and the disaster, and asking for help. So I'm just bringing it all together, like this person that I've seen him in our comments for years, and just really put the disaster on the map. And he had like politicians responding to him. I think the president retweeted him. It was pretty unbelievable. But just, an average Joe, a great human from Asheville, put on the map. And so anyways, that's, that's how I thought of everything. And so that's my little spiel.
We've connected through LinkedIn, and he offered assistance in anything. If I
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, so there you go. So it's a smaller world than I thought. Tell me now about yourself, right? Again, you're the fixed operations director here. Can you give us some context on the group, how many stores, franchises, and then we'd love to know your journey to this role.
Well, let's see. We'll start with Apple Tree. Apple Tree, as I stated previously, is a family-owned business. The owners work here every day, very in touch with every aspect of the business. We've got 2 franchises. We have a Honda franchise and an Acura franchise. About 10 years ago, we outgrew the original Honda dealership that they had built, and we constructed a new facility, and we repurposed the original Honda facility into a pre-owned sales center. So we have a total of 3 rooftops and 2.
And when did you say that, Richard? When did you convert that store to a pre-owned sales center?
Solid 10 years ago, right? Almost exactly 10 years ago. The new facility opened.
Okay, I would say that was the rise. That was when pre-owned started to rise or accelerate in terms of volumes. Okay, I'm curious to know. We'll talk about how that's performed, but go ahead.
And then, so that's where we are. Over the last 2 years, we went back into the original Honda facility and worked with Honda and Acura and repurposed the original shop and located all of our express operations into that old rooftop. So we freed up the shops at our Acura and Honda store for main shop work, and we funnel all of the express work through the service drives of the Honda and Acura, but the work actually gets performed at that pre-owned center. So we do the reconditioning there, and we have 14 dedicated bays to doing quick service as well.
Got it. So the pre-owned center right today is doing the reconditioning and express. How do you define express? What's an express job today at Apple Tree?
Obviously, oil change, tire rotation. Basically, anything. We have a list of like 13 services, 13 core services. They're all menu items. And so anything that falls in those 13 items, cabin air filter, wiper blades, battery replacement, simple jobs. We don't want those guys because we are a small company, but we're pretty high volume store. So we put through a couple hundred cars a day. So we don't want those guys doing, getting bogged down in big jobs. We got to keep the volume up. So we keep the array of services there pretty tight. And then anything that it spins from there, any upsell work, that's found during the inspection process goes out and gets redistributed to the main shops.
That was my next question, which was, I'm assuming you compensate your technicians in Express differently than in your primary shop, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack there. It's probably the single biggest factor in the growth that Apple Tree has seen over the last 4 years. We really overhauled that. As I said, about 2 years ago, we revamped everything, and it took a year of working with Honda and Acura to get the proper permits, the proper clearances to do the quick service work because the Acura store is supposed to have the Acuras done, and the Hondas are supposed to have the Hondas, and have a shared service facility that's not within those four walls. Took a whole bunch of effort, and we opened that up about 2 years ago. And it's probably just a little bit less than 2 years ago, but roughly 2 years ago, we secured the permits and opened the facility there. So that's where it all began, the vision to do that. And then shortly thereafter, we started having the same issues most people have with a dedicated facility, was staffing. And a good friend of ours, of everybody in this industry, and a former neighbor of mine, many years in Jacksonville, Florida, Ed Roberts. I'm sure we're all familiar with Ed. He definitely has a great spin on staffing and development, and we co-opted some of his strategies and really put in an entry-level technician training program. We quit hiring and quit advertising for lube techs and express techs and things like that, and we developed an entire career path and started advertising for entry-level technicians. We hire those guys, and we have benchmarks for training. And over the last 2 years, we've graduated 7 line techs out of that program. And it's been able to exponentially increase the throughput for the store. And we've attracted a much different and much higher quality candidate by advertising for entry-level technicians, giving them a career path, expectations, and they spend about a year in Express. Some of them a little bit less, some a little bit more. And then we put them with our shop foreman, a salaried shop foreman. They do a mentorship through there. We put them with a master technician, teaches them the flat rate. And we've had a huge, huge success, big win for our company.
This episode is brought to you by the new CDK SimplePay. It's the only payment solution that's built into CDK for unrivaled reliability, financial efficiency, and compliance. Whether it's text to pay, contactless payments, remote payments, Apple and Google Pay, or just a tap of a credit card, CDK SimplePay makes it easy for customers while increasing your accounting team's efficiency by an average of 10%. And because it's CDK, setup and onboarding is fast with hardware that's ready to go. So you can learn more at cdk.com/simplepay or click the link in the show notes below. Wow, lots to unpack there. What resources go into this, right? Someone listening to this, it sounds a little overwhelming, but yet everyone struggles with technician hiring. So what resources go into something like this?
Well,
and by the way, I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about people, time, right? What does that look like?
Well, no patting on my back. It's not that at all. But you have to have that vision. You have to have the want to change and break that cycle, change the paradigm. And so it starts with that. And then the planning, like I said, it took almost a year to get Honda and Acura to sign off on it. A lot of work, a ton of work to get that done. We had that facility was built in the early 90s, so we had to go in and refurb the facility. So a lot of resources, a lot of assets went into, overhauling the facility. And then you come to the week-to-week expense of it. And so what some would term and most would term applied labor, which is, what we can't account for, or overages for what we pay out on a weekly basis. We take and account for the excess in labor that we pay out every week, and it's thousands of dollars every week. We dedicate that, or we account for that as training. And it's an investment in our future.
Makes sense.
And so if you're with one of the big, groups, and as service manager, service director, fixed ops guy at one of the big groups, and there's this line item on your statement, your doc for unapplied labor, and it's, thousands of dollars on a monthly basis, you're probably going to get hammered and say, you just can't do that. So it's definitely one of the advantages is that we're not publicly traded, and I'm the judge, jury, and executioner for those kinds of things, working with the ownership and accounting to put the program together. But you have to dedicate resources and money to the whole thing. But if this little operation with 3 rooftops can graduate 7 technicians in 24 months to the line, what we spent versus what we didn't spend recruiting, hiring, training, and turnover for technicians that have, toolboxes with wheels. I think we're way, way ahead of that.
That is incredible. When you say approval from Honda and Acura, are you referring strictly to the facility or also the training curriculum?
They're less interested, not that they're uninterested, but they have a very regimented training program for technicians, advisors, all that stuff like that. So that's, and most of it overlaps because the Honda and Acura products are obviously, there's a lot of overlap there. So there's that, but the franchise agreements had to be amended to have, the facilities are within walking distance of each other. So, but to actually have an Acura and a Honda not worked on within the four walls of the Honda shop or the Acura shop and have them in a combined shared service center took a lot of permission asking and a lot of substantiating until we were approved for the amendments to our agreements.
Richard, tell me how are you staying competitive when you have these massive operations around you, whether it be Hudson, Hendrick, or the rest, right? You're a smaller, somewhat less economies of scale, and I would have to imagine, not as capitalized. Not saying you're not well capitalized, but you're clearly not as capitalized as like a Hendrick or something. What's your strategy to stay? Like, let's start very high level. From a fixed top perspective, how do you stay competitive?
We start with a vision, and the vision has to be disseminated for everyone. So here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing what we're doing, and this is what the future looks like. And everybody has to understand what that is so that there's a shared goal and people have a better understanding of why we do what we do and, the timing of it. So if you don't have the vision and you don't share that with everybody, then you should fight buy-in and you lack direction. So
what is the vision?
Innovate. Currently, the vision is we innovate or we evaporate. That's my theme.
Ooh, I like that. That's like very black and white. I like that.
When I came here about 4 years ago, wonderful business, solid as anything, great family to work for. But the fixed operation side of it definitely was much closer to clipboards and pencils and a lot of phone.
Needed modernizing.
100%. So we looked at the areas that needed to be improved and just started checking them off the list. Put a bunch of very, very intentional about what we do and how we do it and why we do it. Because we don't have, obviously we don't have the resources that a Hendrick Auto Group does, and they are our neighbors. So when we embark on the program like we talked about, we have to really game plan for that and be very intentional about it. When you're working, you've got 100 rooftops and you need a new tire balancer. It's $30,000. We plan for those things and we get the technicians what they need, and they're never lacking for it. But it's obviously the resources that somebody like that has is not what we have. So we have to be very intentional about what we do. So modernizing how we communicate with our customer, modernizing the workflow, maximizing throughput, things like that, efficiency changes were and have been and still are our biggest goals. So innovate or evaporate.
All right, a couple things there. Understood on the vision. When you say you modernize the customer experience or the communication, what does that actually mean? What are you doing that's unique or that strengthens your business?
Well, we looked at all of the things that we aren't doing that we should be doing. Video MPIs, texting platforms, pickup, drop off, website, all those kinds of things. And because, again, driven by the need to integrate and make things easier on us because we don't have, a tech department of 30 guys, one of the choices that we made early on was to partner with our DMS provider, which is Reynolds & Reynolds. And so as we chose vendors, we didn't want to end up with 25 different vendors trying to integrate with Reynolds and all of the challenges that come with that and the constant maintenance and all of those things. So most of the decisions that we've made as far as vendors go are with Reynolds for, a lot of the obvious reasons. We've put in a kiosk that has changed a lot of our business practices. We built out a vestibule inside our service drive and gave our customers 24-hour inside access to the dealership where they can pick up, drop off, tow trucks, the drivers that drop off new cars, all the keys are checked in and accounted for. All those communications as the keys are checked in and out go out to our advisor staff as well as to the customer. So we've got that. We're working on right now. We've got payment integration coming into the kiosk as well as rental car. You'll be able to rent and drop off a car through the kiosk very soon.
I think the strategy is something that lots of operators should deploy. Like, it just makes sense to start with, what's most important to me. And if most important for me is making sure I'm not fumbling with 30 different tools and having to spend time and resources on just figuring out what tech, product should I be using? I think the top-down strategy that you're saying, which is start with your DMS. In your case, it's Reynolds. It could be any DMS in anyone's case, and say, what best integrates with this platform, or what does that platform offer? Because at the end of the day, I do agree with you that optimizing for that ease of use is likely the most valuable part of operating. And here's the thing, right? The truth is, you would settle for like a slightly subpar product. Not saying this is not I'm not talking about to Reynolds specifically. I'm talking about any company, right? If I know that I have that integration, the reality is I don't want to, but I would settle for a slightly subpar product if I know that it all works together and it saves me time and helps me operate. That's the power of distribution, by the way, right? Like that's just the power of distribution, that it all just works well together. And so, anyways, that's just me kind of, thinking through the decision matrix that you just articulated there. It makes sense why you'd go that route, and I can imagine why that's had a big impact on your dealership, because you've simplified things, and so makes a ton of sense on that end.
Yeah, I mean, we're not sending 13 different checks to 13 different vendors. We do write a significant check to Reynolds every month, but we'd be spending that money with across a multitude of vendors if we weren't spending it with them. And the integration and the ease of integration, our advisors use Reynolds. We have had advisors come from other groups that have Reynolds, and they have to completely relearn how to use Reynolds because of the amount of utilization of the utilities that we take advantage of. Through the kiosk integration, we chose Hunter because Hunter integrates with Reynolds. So when a car comes in, the alignment results pop right up onto the Era Ignite screen for the advisors, integrates right into the repair order. We use the video multi-points and the media pictures, all those stuffs are Reynolds apps. They land right on the screen and integrate right into texting and email to the customer. The WorldPay, the RayPay integrates right into the DMS. So we are not, for 99% of what our advisors do, and they are your front line, they stay right in the Reynolds platform. And so all of those things integrate right there. So they don't have to have 10 screens open trying to click through over here to the video MPI and over here for texting and over here for emailing, all those kinds of things. So that integration that we get from Reynolds is invaluable to the efficiency of the operation.
This episode is brought to you by OpenLane, the leading online dealer marketplace for used cars. OpenLane brings more than 25 years of innovation to the wholesale automotive industry, solely focused on making wholesale easy so dealers can be more successful. Their marketplace offers a fast and transparent way to source used and fresh vehicle inventory. Looking to sell? On OpenLane, you can turn vehicles into more cash fast. With a nationwide network of buyers, vehicles listed on OpenLane sell in less than a day on average. OpenLane is the industry leader in innovation, rolling out new tools to make buying and selling easier. Visual Boost AI leverages the power of AI to help buyers review vehicles quickly and bid with confidence. New to OpenLane? Sign up now and new sellers receive a $2,500 sale fee credit. Learn more at openlane.com or click the link in the show notes below. Yeah. That's well said, and not sponsored by Reynolds, by the way. So for anyone wondering, I do have a question though, but on a different point.
Yeah, we'll say our DMS provider from here on out or something.
Well, I do have a different question for you. Like, what's your biggest challenge today? I understand how you've been able to improve just shop efficiency and volume by keeping things simple and reducing the overhead, technologically, financially, in all respects. But when you think about your competitors, what is a challenge to you nowadays versus their competitors? Like, what are you having a tough time keeping up with?
We are in a very good position. I mean, we're in a great position. And so internally, what we are constantly doing to keep up is reevaluating what we do. So we just had a department head meeting, and a couple of years ago, we overhauled our dispatching system. We use an electronic dispatching system for our technicians, and we've grown so much over the last couple of years that right now just yesterday we just had a meeting, and we have to blow our dispatching system up again and rebuild it because our volume has outpaced the parameters that we set a couple of years back. So one of the things that we have to do to stay competitive is constantly reevaluate what we're doing. Technology, the bigger groups and everybody is marching forward with technology, and technology is going to be a big divide, a big divider in the future. And if you don't get on board, you're going to be left behind. So we've overhauled our websites. We've seen probably more than 10x web appointment. We partnered with a company that simplified our web appointment making strategy, and we've seen a 10x increase in the last 90 days of web appointments. That cuts down on phone traffic.
Wow.
It cuts down on everything. We went from an average of 26 clicks to make an appointment down to 5 or 6 clicks to make an appointment. So a customer that's hitting our website and trying to make an appointment was defecting at a rate of over 50%. So we looked at our website analytics, and people at 50% of the time abandoned the process. And so those people showed up in our service drive as walk-ins or abandoned the process and made a call to our BDC. So we have seen a huge increase in our web traffic, our web appointment traffic, which has cut down on calls to our BDC, increased customer convenience, and we're communicating with our customers through the automated texting and that come along with that platform. We're communicating with them at a better level, and it's able to take our BDC and put them on calls that need more attention, more human interaction than somebody that's scheduling an oil change in 3 clicks.
Richard, it seems like a large part of this discussion is tech, which makes sense. Right. It's involved in everything we do nowadays. What does your day look like? Give us like the full play-by-play from the start to the end. How do you spend your time?
Well, I get up and walk the dog. No.
I want to know. Tell me everything. What toothpaste do you use?
Definitely starts with a
fun fact on toothpaste. I think I grew up in a household where my parents bought Aquafresh for like 20 years in a row. So I was I don't, do they even exist anymore, Aquafresh? But I was pretty relieved to ditch the Aquafresh and kind of try new things. So that's my toothpaste story for you while we're at it.
Well, the sidebar to that is that we had nothing glamorous. I promise you that. Nothing of any high, nothing that was overly significant, but we owned a couple of trucks and a small trucking company, which was the means to fuel my father's racing habit. And they hauled groceries. And the terminal had, damaged cases of, beans or rice or spaghetti or whatever. So there were times when we had cases of Aquafresh that came off the truck.
No way. Look at that. Aqua freaking fresh.
Yeah, there was
that's an ad for Aquafresh right there. Look at that.
So yeah, because we leased the trucks and they hauled groceries basically. And so if there were damaged freight, there was a damaged freight place that, the terminal. So, whatever was in there, that we had, my 3 kids and my dad's trying to make, men's meet as a truck driver and driving race cars. And so if there was a case of Aquafresh, then, we were brushing our teeth with Aquafresh.
Wow. Dude, while we're on the tangent of oral hygiene, I mean, the game is changing. We think automotive is changing. I mean, you should see the brands my wife's buying nowadays. I mean, like coconut oil infused toothpaste, fluoride, no fluoride. It is a whole world out there. Yes. It's a whole rabbit hole that I got introduced to recently. But it's funny, like every industry is going through the same thing. There's like a big awakening and people are just like, I mean, everything's changing. It's truly unbelievable. I mean, literally CPG goods, it's changing at a very rapid pace.
Yeah.
Or CPG, I say CPG. I said goods twice. But
yeah. No, it certainly, I mean, I had a poppy soda yesterday, and I'm the last guy in the world that you would think, and if you knew me, would be drinking kombucha and
My man, I love it.
getting the milk fluoride, drinking kombucha, and making sure that there's no seed oils and all that stuff. Yeah, so I'm the last person.
One of us.
The hippies were right, man.
Well, you know what? Like, it's funny enough, when you say all these things, the generation is just different. There's different expectations, and that bleeds into the workplace, right? Yeah. What is that? I'm curious, like, what is I asked you to tell me about your day. We didn't get into that, and I'm not going to let you off the hook. We will get to that next. Sure. But how, you're training new technicians, and you're really, ushering a new generation. What are you focused on to motivate? Sure, money is table stakes. Like, what are you focused on? What do you think is important to your team?
Couple things. And these are the two core things that I found to be successful. Very important. Maintaining the culture starts with hiring, and it starts with hiring the right people. When we bring entry-level guys in to our express service, we're looking for people that want to be in the business. There are plenty of guys out there that will, work at an oil change place for 6 months or a year, and then work at the fast food, and changing oil is kind of a fallback for those guys and gals. And so we try not to hire those people. We were looking for people that are career minded. So that's the first part of it. And the second part, part B of that is when we interview them, we look for automotive passion. One of the most common questions is, what'd you drive? What'd you drive here today? And, I got a lifted truck that I put a, lift kit on, and I did this, or, I've had 3 Honda Civics and I put a B16 and put a turbo on it and lowered it, and, all those things like that. And when you start talking and you find these people, these generally younger people that are, into the car culture and, have gone to tech school and they're looking for that, that's the first thing, hiring the right person. And the one factor that I've found that has been very game-changing to us is stability, consistency, direction. And so what we find with the 20-somethings that we're hiring, for the most part, is that they haven't had a career path laid out for them. They haven't had constant direction, expectation, consistent income, consistent good income. And you put them in that situation where there's expectations, there's training, consistent, decent pay, a good working environment, and you bring those aspects into their life many times for the first time, and it changes their life in general because of those factors. It gets them really focused and goal-oriented, and they become very engaged in the process. So those are the two things: the consistency, hiring the right people, and bringing consistency to their life.
Yeah, and people need direction. They do, right? People need. So sometimes you show them, you give them that path, and many will thrive in that. They have some path to kind of run down. So I fully agree with you, and I've worked with many people like that, and I've hired people like that, where suddenly under a predictable, proper path with expectations, they do well. I fully agree with you there. Go back to your schedule, right? So you've done a lot in a short couple of years here to bring the group forward and to innovate the service experience for customers and the department. Tell us a little bit more about your day today. Kind of block it out for us of what you spend your time on.
Starts with a large cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee. That's the jumping off point. Spend a few minutes in the morning in the service drive, just making sure that everything's going okay. Make sure everybody's here, touch everybody. Sit down, lock into the desk, catch up on any emails, anything critical. Spend some time in the shop, out from the Honda, migrate down to the Acura shop, and then spend some time in the quick service facility, recon, just checking, inspecting, making sure everything's flowing good, and keeping in touch with the people. Usually stop by, say hi to our GM, who's always buried, taking care of his end of the deal. Check in with sales manager, make sure everything's going good with recon. Back to my office, usually lunchtime by then, grab something to eat, and then usually spend the afternoon taking care of the administrative part of the business, which is, I block off time to meet with vendors. I think that's very important. We can get back to that, but meeting with vendors, making sure that we're on track with our goals, both for like tech integration as well as, the performance of the store. And then always available. We do have a service manager for our Honda store and a service manager for our Acura store, and some team leaders in our express department. So stay in contact with them. The afternoon consists of taking care of the administrative part of my job and keeping tabs on anything that's going on day to day. And my door is always open for anyone that needs to sit down.
This episode is brought to you by Nomad Content Studio. Many dealerships are still getting social media completely wrong. They either ignore it, post inventory photos, or hand it off to someone on staff with no strategy. Meanwhile, the dealership down the street is racking up millions of views and turning those views into real car sales. That's where Nomad Content Studio comes in. They're the team behind the dealers you actually see online. Their system trains a videographer, tells you exactly what, who, and how to film, then storyboards, clips, the raw footage, and posts the content daily across all your social platforms. They literally do it all for you. They're the same team behind some of the top dealerships and biggest automotive influencers today. I believe in them so much that I even personally invested in them. If you want your dealership to be next, head to trynomad.co. That's trynomad.co to book a call, or click the link in the show notes below. How long have you been fixed ops director? And before that, what did you do in the car business?
Well, since I got here, and that was my role previously as well, with another company. So I've been here right at 4 years, just a little bit less than 4 years, but right at 4 years. We'll call it 4 years. Previous to that, I got started in the car business from day one. My dad had the car repair business right down from the house in a little garage, Lupo's garage, and that was his first iteration of paying for his racing habit and providing for his family. So at a very, very young age, I was in the shop helping Dad, climbing up, pulling wrenches out of the toolboxes and holding the flashlight while he was working on stuff. And over the years, that car business morphed into a small trucking company. We quit working on customers' cars and started working on the trucks that he had purchased. So it became a truck maintenance business more than anything, keeping our own fleet on the road. So my dad retired in the early 90s from driving race cars. I took a turn in the seat for a few years. And so between cars, trucks, and race cars, there was, my formative years were spent doing those things. Went to work in the aftermarket, cut my teeth with a company called Monroe, based out of Rochester, New York. Big company in the...
Yeah, I know Monroe.
They were growing like wildfire, and I had a front row seat in the huge expansion of that company. So I was put into roles and privy to things I probably had no business being in, but, huge expansions like that. They were doubling the size of the company every year. Put me really young in roles that I probably had no business being there, but nonetheless, bought a Midas franchise for a while. Sold that.
Get out of here. Yeah. Okay. So you've had your stabs at independence.
Yeah. A couple of gas.
So I want to backpedal to one thing you said, which was when you were talking about your day, used cars, and you also mentioned that you have the used car store. Mm-hmm. You take used cars seriously.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Couple questions there. Let's start with, how do you align reconditioning standards with the used car department, non-CPO, right? What are you targeting? What's the protocol in the shop?
Everything gets recon to the highest level possible, including preventive maintenance items. Anything that doesn't, any high mileage or older cars, we have an outlet located south of here, about 40 miles south of here, where those trade-ins that are not going to meet the standards of what we're selling here. We have a partner, I guess is the best way to say, a partner that takes those higher mileage trades and works from a different business model as an independent car dealership.
Like a consignment type of deal?
That business is evolving right now. They've gone through a major expansion and renovation. And so but it's secondary finance. They're floating. They're floating with buy here, pay here. But the stuff that's not going to be reconditioned to the standards of the store, 99% of them go there. We wholesale virtually zero of our cars.
Well, that was my question, which is like, how does that pencil versus wholesaling? I mean, you're holding the inventory for longer, which I can't imagine is that big of a cost. Typically for high mileage, you're not really depreciating much, and it's typically, price points much lower. I don't think that's a huge cost there, but I'm curious, how does it stack up just financially versus wholesaling?
Well, I would say anecdotally, that if you met anybody that's in the secondary and buy here, pay here business that takes it serious, those guys are not living in apartments.
Big money, big money.
So that's
if you're cut out for it and you're ready to put up with that, you got the you're able to do that. Then it is definitely some big money in that business. Yeah. Okay, so understood. And then what else can you tell us about your used car facility? And we spoke about tech compensation. I'm assuming hourly techs are paid hourly in this facility as opposed to flat rate.
So we track them as a team, and we pay them hourly, and we give them increases based on competency and training completion. So the hourly rate goes up as they complete more testing, OEM testing. And after 1 year in Express, generally they're 100% certified with the manufacturer. I mean, that's diagnostic, transmission, air condition, everything. So they're 100% certified when they leave, or really, really close to it. And then we track the hours that are produced by the quick service team, and we pay them a bonus on the cumulative hours of the quick service department.
Got it. Sounds like you guys are, firing on all cylinders. What's next? Like, what's on your mind nowadays as you've made some great progress here over the last couple of years, but what's next?
Well, we've interviewed and taken demos from all of the AI ladies, Stella, Mia, they're all oddly named after women, or most of them.
Who's your favorite?
So we are we have an existing relationship with Blink AI, and we are also talking with Toma. And Toma seems to be a very serious AI player in the market right now. We really like their product. And so what's in the future is conversational AI. We're overhauling our phone system right now. And once the phone system, the new phone system is installed, we're going to lay an AI agent, conversational AI agent over top of it. Their numbers seem to be somewhere with fully integrated, 50-60% of all incoming BDC calls are handled by the conversational agent. So between the 10x increase in web appointments and conversational AI, we will be able to take our BDC people and really focus them on the people that need that human interaction.
Wow. So that stacks up with the survey we just conducted here at Car Dealership Guy, which was that there's still massive opportunity for dealers to implement voice AI, and that they are interested and are doing it at a very rapid clip. Yeah. So I can see, makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. Richard, this has been absolutely awesome. True masterclass. You guys are clearly punching above your weight class in such a competitive market, given you are a smaller store but doing some really great things. Any closing thoughts, any final words before we wrap up?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor. You guys do a great job, and you're so widely distributed, and such a great product you guys put out. So very, very honored and happy to be just a very small part of it for a few minutes here today. So thank you. I think that one of the things that we should be looking at that's on the radar but not talked about quite as much is consumer sentiment. And we're seeing the first trickling of that, where the globalism is coming back home and becoming more nationalistic. We're going to see more made in America kind of stuff. And I think that there's a thread to pull on there that is going to lead some dealers to success.
That's a great statement, and I agree with you. It's true. There is a lot more made in America, and tariffs are doing their part to kind of onshore lots of manufacturing, or at least get statements put out to start that. So it's going to be an interesting time with lots of change.
Absolutely.
Well said. Richard Lupo, thanks for coming on the pod. This was awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.